Hey, Jeff Nelson, thanks for joining me today. Today, my guest is Matt Lederman, a medical doctor who you might know. I recently had Matt and his wife, Alana, on the channel here talking about their latest book, which is Wellness to Wonderful: 9 Pillars for Living Healthier, Longer, and with Greater Joy. Part of Matt Lederman's training was with Dr. John McDougall. You might know Matt is a superstar in the plant-based world. He was in the film Forks Over Knives, and he's been in other films. He's written several best-selling books. He was a corporate vice president at Whole Foods for a number of years, helping launch their medical and wellness centers. And he's part of the Cornell e-certificate program with Colin Campbell. He's been one of the instructors there. He's got a very long and impressive resume. And Matt and his wife, Alana, have a really wide breadth of experience with all kinds of different health modalities. And today we're talking about a brand new product that they have created. It's called WeBe Kalm. And before I start, I just want to say that I'm not getting paid or I'm not getting a commission. I'm not an investor in this product. I'm doing this interview because I've looked at the product and I think it could be extremely beneficial to a lot of people. I've known Matt and Alana for years, and I think they've come up with an intriguing product, but I'm not part of it in any way. So welcome, Matt. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And as always, I appreciate your support.
Well, you know what? Before we start, let me show people what the product looks like, just and kind of how it works before we even talk about it. And this is one of the videos on the product website.
How you use WeBe Kalm is you take the breathing tube and you take the indicator and you push them together like this and make sure it's tight so this part won't fall off. Then you breathe in through your nose, exhale through your mouth into the breathing piece, and the air goes and pushes up the ball, which makes a white noise sound, which if your ears are listening for and your eyes focus on the ball and you're breathing in through the tube, then you're definitely getting calmer. Here, I'll show you how it works. If you can do this 5 times in a row, you'll definitely get calmer.
So there it is, WeBe Kalm. It's Matt's new product. And as I understand it, it's basically targeting stress and anxiety levels in children, or I suppose in people of any age. And stress is probably higher than it's ever been these days. Matt, tell us a little about the product here.
Yeah, so the idea is to help people regulate their nervous systems, to help calm their nervous systems and go from that fight or flight survival mode into that safety, digest, heal, reproduce mode. A lot of people are living in that survival mode right now, and we can't tell ourselves we're calm. No matter how much we logic with ourselves, our body needs to experience what we call messages of safety, almost like you have to give your body nutrients from your food, right? Think of this as safety nutrients that we have to consume over and over throughout the day. So knowing oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how does this combat that fight or flight, that anxiety, the nervousness that people might have? What is going on here with this product?
Right. So it triggers 3 pathways. There's slow exhalation. So there's different ways of sort of getting in messages into the nervous system and up sort of, to the brain. Almost like, you ever read where if you smile really big, you will start to feel happy. So if you hold a smile for a minute, so you're sending a message that's starting in your mouth and it's going back into your brain and affecting the emotional state of the brain. There's bidirectional, because you can also feel happy in your body and then out comes a smile, right? So it can go both ways. So it's the same thing with breathing, right? You can be really stressed and you'll breathe slow and shallow, right? And if you're calm, you'll breathe, slower and deeper. Similarly, you can send messages back by breathing slower and deeper, particularly the slow exhalation. And that will send messages back into the brain and saying, hey, you're safe, you're okay. There's the other piece is not only slow exhalation, but also focused attention. So when you focus on the ball, trying to keep it aloft for the 10 seconds, if you're 10 years old or older, and you do that 5 times over again, focused attention is another way to send messages back. Because if you're really stressed and fight or flight, you're scanning all over. You're not going to stop and look at one spot. So focused attention is another way to send messages back. The third is auditory regulation, white noise, that triggers the certain sound frequencies that are associated with calm and safety. So those are just three pathways that doing it over and over again, either when you're upset or proactively, to build that new muscle of safety that people are lacking in their daily lives, and they're experiencing that lack of safety, that lack of sense of safety, as anxiety. Unfortunately, the medical industry, rather than focusing on here's ways to help you feel safe, they might label it as you have anxiety. And I think that it's helpful to be aware that you have a feeling of anxiety. But if you think you have a disease of anxiety, you almost feel victim to it versus, hey, you're experiencing anxiety now, or you experience anxiety frequently. That's a lack of a sense of safety. How can we help increase that sense of safety in your environment? And then the feeling of anxiety will start to dissipate.
So basically, if I'm understanding, it's working in three different ways. One is the deep breath. You're having a slow exhalation. It's kind of forcing you to breathe out slowly. You're focusing on this little ball that you're raising with your blowing with your breath. And then it makes a sound, sort of like a white noise sound.
Okay.
These three in combination have some physiological effect, is what you're saying, on your body,
Right.
that produces or combats anxiety. Is that what's going on?
Exactly. And there's data about all three of, there's data on focused attention, there's data on slow exhalation, there's data on white noise. We're just putting them all together into one device that's very easy for people to use. And then there's actually a fourth pathway. Every device comes with these bracelets that say, "We be in this together." And it's a large one for the parent and a small one for the child. And what the idea is that it's called co-regulation, that my state of my nervous system, if I'm calm, can help calm yours, right? You've been in that experience, Jeff, where you're around someone else who's really agitated and you start to feel agitated. Similarly, if you're around someone who's calm, you can feel more calm in your body. So that's called, our nervous systems regulate off of each other, right? So we want to teach parents and children that, hey, how do we introduce this? And I've brought it up with my children. Hey, when we're feeling, dysregulated or uneasy in our bodies or upset, let's suggest, by holding our bracelet up, that maybe the other person might enjoy taking a few breaths on a WeBe Kalm. So now when I am tense, my daughter will hold the bracelet up and say, "Hey, Dad, you want to go grab your WeBe Kalm," or vice versa. We have a partnership where we co-regulate together.
Very cool. So are you going to be putting pharmaceutical companies out of business who want to treat everybody's ADHD with drugs or give kids speed or something?
Exactly.
I mean, this is like a threat to that. Maybe this is not conventional medicine. This is not the kind of business plan where you can keep selling the pharmaceutical every month or every week. No, I think this is very cool.
That's the idea, was to give people a tool, right? When I was growing up, the only tool my parents had was to yell at me to calm down, right? Or get in your bed, cut it out, right? That was basically the tool they had, right? But when you tell a kid to stop doing something, you're not helping them meet the need they're trying to meet. When a kid is rocking, when a kid is agitated, when a kid is biting their nails, when a kid is, picking at their face, when a kid is struggling and bouncing off the walls or struggling to fall asleep, their nervous system is dysregulated. They need regulation. They need support, calming. And once you're aware of that and you have trust with your child that you're not trying to shame them or put them down, but you're trying to work with them to help them feel more calm, which will feel wonderful to the child, they'll open up, and you build this trust and this connection through regulation.
I mean, it's almost like a little mini meditation or something. People do this and they meditate for 20 minutes or whatever a day, and it has this similar effect of kind of calming you. You focus on your breath, you close your eyes and shut out the world. So, but this is like a little quick fix meditation almost. I look at it.
Well, it's interesting. Meditation, I think, is really helpful and valuable. But when there's people that are in this dysregulated state that have not created a meditation practice. So a lot of people are living in survival mode and they're told, you need to meditate. But if you're in danger all the time, imagine I threw a tiger in your office and I said, "Jeff, meditate." You would say, "Are you kidding me? There's danger here. I got to get the hell out of here. Right? I got to prepare to fight the tiger." You can't meditate, but people who have developed a meditation practice can use that muscle to calm themselves when they're dysregulated. But a lot of people who don't have the meditation practice need to first regulate their bodies so that they can actually feel comfortable being still. You have to get out of that fight or flight danger mode. Convince your body there's no tiger so that you can actually sit and start to practice meditating. So this is really helpful for people as a bridge to wanting to be able to develop a meditation practice, but are the ones that say, I just can't sit still. I can't do it. I want to jump out of my body. So the breathing is the key to regulate and then meditate. And then eventually you can bring the meditation to help you regulate. But this is also something that's, it's available. I have one of these by my desk right here. I have one in my car. I have one by my bed, or one by the kitchen table. And what happens is I use them proactively to try and give myself these sort of safety nutrients many, many times throughout the day. And my whole body and my whole, physiology has shifted because there's so many messages coming at us from our calendars to our social media, to our, our phones, our work requirements, our family requirements are all saying, you got to move fast. You got to move now. You got to do this. They're hitting us with all this urgency and intensity. That's the opposite of safety. So I find that it's really helpful when I see this to then go and do it. So just seeing it starts to shift my body. And then I use it like before I eat, and I'm much more effective as well, aligning my behaviors, my food choices, right, with my intentions, my values, right, versus just eating in that dysregulated reactive state. So you see how it can help, whether it's sleep, food choices, just feeling calm throughout the day, breaks between, meetings. That's how I would recommend using it.
Great. I mean, how most people relax is they sit on the couch, they turn on the TV, they go on social media and start scrolling through YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And that can probably actually create more stress in a lot of people, you know what I mean? Back in the day, we used to go outside, we go ride our bikes, we go, hiking up in the hill or something, but people don't have access to that and they're not sort of accustomed. So this makes a lot of sense. You talk about food choices, and this is like, working out your muscle. I like that comparison that, you do begin to focus on calming yourself and talk about, I know there's been some research about this, about digestion and about how this can impact you in that way.
Right. So the way your digestive system works is that it needs signals from the ventral vagus nerve, right? And all that innervate all different organs in the gut, as well as the heart and lungs. But they need messages of safety to be coming down to the gut to say, hey, you can work normally now, right? When there's messages of danger, we sort of pull off those, it turns off the message of safety and the gut stops working effectively. So there's a lot of people that the food is really important, but in addition to the food, you also need to give messages of safety so that your gut can function optimally. Same thing with the reproductive system, right? A lot of people that are living in this chronic state of threat, right? They're going to have a harder time conceiving, right? Because the body doesn't do that when it believes that it is dangerous. Even if your head is saying, hey, I'm watching Netflix, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm fine. That's not giving your body the message of safety that it needs to be able to turn on the feedback loops that go to the gut and say, oh, you can function normally now. You can do the peristalsis the way you need to do it, right? We don't have to take you offline and divert resources to fight a threat. We can focus on digestion. We can focus on reproduction, right? That, and by using a tool like this, for example, you can practice getting faster at turning on the threat when you need to fight the threat and then turning it back off and going into safety. Safety is a learned behavior. Our default state is actually mobilized for threat. And you have to sort of learn and practice and build the muscle to be able to turn on sort of that safety physiology. And that makes sense, right? You want to at default be able to fight threat, evolutionarily speaking, right? You don't want to have to turn it on first and then you fight the threat. You want to be able to do that immediately. The safety is what we have to learn to turn on, which is why we need to practice it.
So what age kids are they starting on something like this?
We say 3 and up, and I tell parents, use your discretion. as far as, keeping it available for children to use. There's, it's child tested, safe, and all the safety testing. But it's as soon as a kid is able to take a deep breath, that you train the child to take a deep breath into the nose and then blow out through the tool, as holding the ball up as long as they can. And that is enough to help start training the kid to breathe slowly. And sometimes what's interesting is the kids, I have some teenagers that will say, I'm calm, I'm good. And I'll say, hey, can you just show me if you can hold the ball up for the 10 seconds? And they won't be able to at first. And they'll say, oh, wow, I didn't realize. And they'll look at me and smile. And it's not a shaming thing. It's more of a playful thing, right? Where oh, Dad, I didn't realize my body was sort of dysregulated. And then they do a few breaths and all of a sudden then they're able to hold the ball up. So it's a great feedback sort of indicator around what's going on inside.
So how would you integrate this product with your kids, with your family? I mean, I can see obviously kids have tantrums, kids feel a lot of anxiety at different points. And, how do you kind of introduce this and suggest they use it?
Yeah, so we teach, actually, another part of WeBe Kalm is our parenting column. We have a column called Dear WeBe, and we teach a style of parenting called collaborative, non-permissive parenting. So all of our articles are around people writing in for different challenges with parenting. How do we address it from that collaborative, non-permissive parenting style? And it's based on my training and aloneness training and nonviolent communication. But that is how we use that philosophy around how we introduce the WeBe Kalm. So for example, instead of saying, don't treat it like a pacifier and you jam it in the kid's mouth and hope that they'll shut up, right? You say collaboratively, hey, I got this new tool that's supposed to make our bodies feel more calm and comfortable, and it's supposed to be really enjoyable. I tried it and I really like it. Would you be interested in trying it too? So you invite them, and it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because, hey, we all have trouble calming our bodies or need help. And this is a tool that helps us, and it's fun too. And then, hey, it's something that'd be really cool to work together around. I have trouble sometimes noticing when I'm all tense and upset. So when you notice that, would you be willing to let me know, maybe hold your bracelet up or, ask me, hey, Dad, would you be interested in using the WeBe Kalm? I would really appreciate that. And then I would say, hey, and would you appreciate it if I do it for you as well? When I see that you might benefit from using the WeBe Kalm, would you be interested in me raising your awareness and holding my bracelet? And would that feel helpful and supportive to you? And they could say yes or no. And then I'd say, great, let's work as a team so that we can, as a team, we can work together to help feel more calm and less tense in our bodies throughout the day. How does that sound?
So that makes a lot of sense with, overstimulation that people have, and kids maybe in particular, sleep issues. People have trouble kind of relaxing. Can this address that? Can this have any impact on sleep?
Right. So sleep is another example of when your body is in this dysregulated danger, fight, threat mode. It's not going to sleep. There's nothing wrong with your body when you can't fall asleep at night, right? It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's saying, hey, if I'm perceiving threat, if I don't get enough messages of safety, I'm not going to fall asleep because I don't want you to get hurt or die. What we have to do is not take trying to override drugs, override that whole system and sort of try to force you to go to sleep. But they don't really do anything to help you feel safe and to help your nervous system get messages of safety. So even if you need drugs, I'm not against the use of drugs, but I really try to get at the core of the problem. And maybe people need medications to get them there. But I'm really, as you know, whether it's nutrition, lifestyle, or anything else, I want to get to the root of the issue. So the root of the issue with sleeping is that when you get into bed, your body is still in fight or flight or threat mode, and it can't calm itself. It can't get that message of safety that it needs to allow you to fall asleep. And there's all sorts of things we can do throughout the day that help you sleep at night. In other words, if you ran around all day like you were fighting a war and there's a bomb under your desk that's about to go off, and all of a sudden at night you're like, hey, now go to sleep. You can't do that. So that's where it's helpful throughout the day to start giving people these messages of safety all day long. And then all of a sudden at night, they're going to say, wow, it was easier to fall asleep.
How did you come up with this idea?
Interesting. I came up with this idea a couple of years ago when I was thinking about trying to get patients to stop smoking. And I said, when we tell people to stop smoking, we get the toxic smoke out of their lives, which is fantastic, but we take away some really good things. And people look at me like, what are you talking about? Good things from cigarettes? And I'll say every hour, these people would go outside, take 20 breaths and blow out slowly with a couple of friends, like clockwork. I said, we took all of that away because we didn't like the toxic smoke. But can you imagine if that's why I tell people, I say, go outside every hour, take a WeBe Kalm break with a friend and do, this is only 5 breaths. But can you imagine if you did 10 or 20 to finish a cigarette, where you breathe in through your nose, where you suck in a cigarette and then you blow out slowly, you blow out the smoke slowly, but now do it without the smoke. And that is why I said, can we create a device that would give people that same experience without the toxic smoke? Because the Nicorette gum, all it does is affect the nicotine. It does nothing for that 1 hour, that hourly break with community that meets so many needs with the slow exhalation. So anyway, that's how it came up. And then we said, how can we get this out there?
So originally it was for smoking. It was to help people kick the habit.
We never created the device that was just for smoking, but I wanted something that if people who are trying to stop smoking,
right, they
could use something like, because you can take the indicator off and put it in your pocket. So now it's just this thin tube and there's no sound. So if you want to be really discreet, right? Like when the car, I have it just like this. I don't have the tube. I don't want to be staring at a ball while I'm driving. Yeah. So I have this, and it's very discreet. So people actually might even think I'm vaping when I'm actually doing the opposite. So the goal for me is, how do we meet those needs in the most effective, least costly way? The needs that you're meeting with cigarettes without the cost of the toxic smoke.
So the exhale piece, that's really the key, is what I'm hearing. That slow breath out has a lot of beneficial effects. You were saying it affects the vagus nerve and goes down to your digestion. How is that physiologically working? Somehow just relaxes the vagus nerve, or what?
Right. So the ventral vagus, there's the ventral and the dorsal vagus, but you can, it has afferent and efferent fibers, and it's scanning, and majority of the fibers are scanning the environment and taking in information through your breath, through your vision, through feeling, right? It's taking in information from the gut. It's also sending information out. And it's this feedback loop, this communication that's happening, that your body is designed. There's actually many other mechanisms too, that your body is designed to interact and interpret and get a perception of what's around it, and then make an assessment of what we should do physiologically to optimize our health, well-being, and survival. That's happening second by second. You're processing billions of bits of information that are coming in through all of your senses, and it's making a sort of a net. Okay, I'm safe right now, or you mobilize a little bit. You don't have to mobilize a lot, but be a little bit vigilant right now because we're not sure, right? So it's this continuum of threat to safety, sort of tension that it's trying to do, and the vagus nerve and its fibers are one of the ways, not the only way, that it's trying to communicate and interpret the environment.
I know you've got case studies, you've got examples, and people telling their stories on your website about it and the benefits. How have you researched, or what have you compiled in terms of experiences that people are having?
So we're having all sorts of different experiences particularly with kids. What's most exciting to me is that they're learning this process of identifying what they're feeling in their body, noticing when they're a little bit dysregulated, and having a tool to go to and a process that they practice that they can calm their bodies. Most kids don't know when they're feeling dysregulated, let alone what to do if they are. So you're training them to have this internal awareness, and then giving them something that they can do when they have it. So now the kids, once you introduce it, eventually they go after it themselves, because they say, oh, I know what I'm feeling and I know what to do, and I like how I feel after I do that. So whether it's before homework, before stressful tests, before sleep, before mealtime, they are finding we're working with some schools to try and get them into schools so that each kid can have one by their desk. So imagine if instead of going to the thinking chair, you went to the calming chair, right? So now you get to go there, and you can bring your WeBe Kalm back there, and you can start taking some breaths, and you can come back when you feel more calm, right? It's a supportive environment versus a shaming environment. Those are the success stories that we're having where people are saying, we don't have a tool for this, and now we do. And then what's really fun too is, this is a favorite story of mine where a girl was about to go on this water slide, but it was very scary for her. And the dad was going to do the typical dad stuff. He says, come on, get on there. You got to go. Let's do it. You're fine. But before he had to say any of that, he saw her focusing and doing this breathing thing. And he asked her what she's doing. And she said, I'm doing my WeBe breaths. And he said, yes, yes. So then she noticed that she was stressed and she was calming her body. And then she went down the slide because she knew that she was safe, but her body was having a reaction. But instead of ignoring the reaction and trying to push through it, she soothed the reaction and then comfortably and enjoyably went down the slide.
That's great. I mean, I think people developing children an awareness of when they're feeling that way, being able to identify it and then say, oh, I don't have to feel this way. I can, right. As you say, you've trained your muscle. I mean, people frequently go through life with a sense of urgency when, why? They're just sort of trained almost to do that. And having a breathing technique that you either do with this or what you learn from this, as you're saying, and then you start being able to call it, do deep breaths when you don't even have it, like on the slide. That's amazing. What about blood pressure? I remember you're always told to take a deep breath and then we're going to take your blood pressure. So I guess, have you looked at it?
There's definitely data on the impact of these practices on blood pressure. Like I said, each of these pathways, the slow exhalation, focused attention and mindfulness, all of those have data and they affect blood pressure. Because you think about it, blood pressure is just a physiological reaction to the environment. And it's changing, your blood pressure changes second by second based on your physiological needs. And if you're going to have to increase the blood pressure to fight a threat or to do something else, it makes sense. But if there's no threat to fight, then ideally your blood pressure is back in that calm level, but it's not going to come down until it thinks it's safe to do that. So all of the reactions, I mean, even, your ability, there's threat in the pro-inflammatory cytokines and how they affect insulin resistance, right? Because if you're going to fight a threat, you want to have fuel in the bloodstream. You want to have glucose in the bloodstream to be able to fuel your body to fight the threat. So your insulin resistance will go up, right, momentarily, right? So all of these different physiological sort of impacts of being in a threat state that are great when you're fighting a threat, but terrible if you're living in them chronically. That all of a sudden starts to improve. And what we're seeing is the chronic disease that we're seeing is the result of living in a threat physiology chronically. And that's separate. I'm not saying the food. Again, I want to be very clear. Eating an unhealthy diet, an American diet, is the way the body experiences that diet, it's like it's toxic, right? Imagine consuming poison and all the reactions your body has to consuming something toxic. It's going to fight that threat, right? That's what happens. I mean, the Western diet is basically putting poison in your body, right? So your body is reacting and trying to help you. But if you keep putting poison in your body 3 times a day, over and over again, you're going to start to have disease manifest as a result. Similarly, if you keep living in a threat state over and over again throughout the day, your body's going to manifest that as disease and not feeling well. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. You're looking at the website. I can see there's a great deal of info about anxiety and children having to deal with different emotional issues. Again, I think about how doctors generally address, and approach this kind of subject. And it's, if it gets to a point where the kid is having problems concentrating in school or whatever, there's frequently a pharmaceutical solution that's being offered. And I really like this idea of empowering the kid themselves to be able to improve their outlook and lower their anxiety and have that be in their control, as opposed to, here's a drug. I feel like if a kid has to take a drug to go to school, that they're at the wrong school. That
Mhm.
they shouldn't be doing that. That's just my take. But it's not controlling the kid. It's giving the kid a tool that they can see, that they can, not be a control freak, but address the problem, directly themselves. People react unconsciously. They're on a way to, it's hard to kind of gauge yourself and what you're doing. So this is something where WeBe Kalm presumably helps train a person to become more aware, right? And thus address
Right.
it.
It gives you a tool, helps you become aware. We're getting a lot of pediatricians and actually doctors in general that are excited and wanting to sell this in their, offer it in their office,
Right.
just because there's no tool, right? And doctors, if there were better tools to do the job than the medication, people would pick them, right? It's the fact that there's a lack of tools,
Right.
and they don't know what else to do. So when you have a patient that's really struggling and you don't have the time or the tools or the resources to help them, you're doing the best you can. So what we would, rather than say, don't give medication and then you don't have anything that helps them, and you just say, okay, well, good luck with this anxiety or whatever you're feeling. We can say, okay, well, hey, before we jump into something with medication, we'd love to try this other tool that really gets to the root of the problem, like the WeBe Kalm. Would you be interested in trying that? Right. So to me, it's just adding a tool to more effectively meet the needs of the patient at a lower cost.
Where did you come up with the name? It's kind of an exotic spelling. And how did that come out?
I'll tell you the truth, but I don't know if people will enjoy.
Okay.
We'll see. You always mind getting me to say something that I don't tell a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
But we originally were gonna call it the WeBe Kalm, with a play on the name Doobie, right? So we're like, oh, go use the Doobie. But then we got feedback that about 50% of people thought it was really funny and 50% of people didn't like it and didn't want any joking around about doobies.
Right.
So then we said, okay, well, because WeBe Kalm, we thought it was a fun play on words.
Right.
But then we said, okay, we like the syllables and the calm and we said, okay, well, what about instead of Doobie, it's WeBe.
Okay.
And we switched to WeBe Kalm.
Yeah.
But originally, so you're funny, my kids sometimes still call it the Doobie around the house because they were, for years we were prototyping and modifying, and they're like, so anyway.
The Doobie Brothers. We're back in the 70s with the Doobies there.
Exactly.
So now what about, does this combat low self-esteem? What about people who are hypercritical of themselves and tell themselves they're screwing up or whatever? Any application for this kind of breathing technique?
Yeah. So the inner critic, anytime when you tell yourself you're screwing up, you're going to start to mobilize and go into threat because you have needs for self-acceptance and understanding and love and safety. When you feel like a critic, whether it's internal or external, is hitting you, you don't feel safe, right? Because part of our safety is about love and acceptance, right? As a social species. When you have that inner critic going, it's going to mobilize you. So what we want to do is calm the nervous system down through breathing. And then how do we talk and deal with the inner critic? And that's where the collaborative, non-permissive parenting, a lot of the nonviolent communication comes in. We wanted to add that in. So our site has a lot of resources that the tool can help calm. And then we can transform how you talk to yourself or how you talk to your children or other people. And actually, I do a lot of coaching now with families and their children around collaborative, non-permissive parenting. So to your point, I would help them calm their bodies and say, oh, the inner critic's going, right? Your self-esteem is getting a hit here. And then we calm to say, okay, but we're not in danger right now. And just understanding it intellectually isn't enough. That's where the breathing and the focused attention, all of that helps. And then once they've regulated, now we can connect and we can talk about what's the inner critic trying to do? It's trying to meet a need. It wants you to be more successful at something maybe. And it thinks that if it hits you hard with criticism, that's going to get you to change your ways maybe. So it's looking out for you, but it's got a really painful side effect. I wonder if we can meet those needs with more care and understanding and warmth and kindness, right? So to me, that's the collaborative, nature, the transforming, the communication that can only integrate into your consciousness once you've gotten out of that threat mode, out of that danger mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So I'm going to put a link to the website so people can go check it out here below this video. What do people do if they want to get one of these? How does that work?
So they can buy it. They can go to our website, WeBe Kalm with a K.com, or they can, it's sold on Amazon as well. And they put an order in and get to enjoy it. And I'd love to hear any feedback. You can email Kalm, Kalm, at WeBeKalm.com. A lot of comms there. And tell me, I'd love to hear about your experience. I give people the challenge that if they can, do this every hour for a week, or have this by your desk where every hour, like taking the smokeless smoke breaks, right? So you can do that, or, have it by your desk and you're using it in between every meeting. It only takes 5 seconds. What people started saying is just by seeing the device, their body started to associate that with calm. So there was a benefit of just saying, oh, okay, this is my intention, right? It's almost like seeing a beautiful whole food plant-based meal on the table, and you just smile and feel lighter and healthier, even, before you even start eating. So to me, it's a really valuable practice. And then also it's there when you're having those tough moments, the kid's having, a tantrum, or, they're so upset they can't even talk, right? And everybody's had a kid where they're so upset they can't even talk. You still keep talking to them. They can't take in anything. Their body is so dysregulated. You need to help them calm down, and then we can connect and communicate. So I would tell people, email us and let us know about your experiences. But I'm very excited and confident that if you try to start giving your body these safety nutrients all throughout the day, you're going to see a difference in your physiology and overall well-being on things like sleep, relationships, homework, just your general anxiety, sense of stress, things like that.
I love the comparison to smoking, because I do see at my office, I go up sometimes and there's one or two people standing out there on their cigarette break. They have to be outdoors. But yeah, I haven't thought about it. Yeah, they're not just getting the nicotine, they are breathing, they are talking on the phone while they're doing this kind of ritual. And there's something to the ritual that's a benefit. And you've kind of packaged that part of it here. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. That ritual for them, just leaving without even smoking. If they start to walk and head, right, their bodies start to calm just from being able to do that. Similar, like if you just think about that delicious dessert, your mouth starts to water, right? Even though you haven't eaten it yet, your body makes these associations. That's what we're helping people do.
I think it's great. I think it's dynamite. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want people to know here?
If people use the code wellness2wonderful with the number 2, so wellness2wonderful, they'll get 15% off if they order the WeBe Kalm. So I really appreciate your.
So use it at checkout then.
As
you're checking out, put that in to get a discount.
Right.
Okay, lovely.
Exactly. We can write that in, but it's the wellness, the number 2, and then wonderful. Put that in, and you can get a 15% discount at WeBeKalm.com website if you order it there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you so much for being on today. Appreciate it. And I hope people go check this out and pick up 1 or 2 or 10 or whatever to have around the house. So
thank you so much, Jeff.
Appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe. You know the drill. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.